is JJ from Once Somerville. Thanks so much for being here. It's great to see you. What you're about to enjoy is some special content created just for you by the Once family. We appreciate the time that the artists have given, and we've put a link to their tip jar in the comments below. We've also put a link there to our GoFundMe. This is one of the ways that we're going to get through this time until we can be open and together again. Art and community are our priorities here at Once. We really miss you, and we can't wait until we can all be back together. Until then, this is our way of holding our community close and continuing to make art. So, before you enjoy the show, a couple of notes. The bathrooms are in the back. On the left, no flash photography, and as always, no crowd surfing. Enjoy. We'll see you soon.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into this Dear Young Rocker live stream show. You could be doing other things. You could be tuning into the very large event happening in Tulsa, Oklahoma tonight, and I'm glad you're with me and listening to a personal story that will hopefully inspire empathy and change. And I want to acknowledge that we're at a point where a lot of change is happening quickly. People are waking up to the injustice in this country, and that is a painful but so important process. And thank you to everyone who is protesting and donating and risking their lives and having difficult conversations that could cost them family and friend relationships. It's amazing what I'm seeing happening, and I'm trying to do my own little baby part. So yeah, sharing stories is one of the best ways to create empathy and thus create change. And I hope more people who find Dear Young Rocker are inspired to share their own stories. You know, this story is for anyone who's ever felt out of place or left out or weird or wrong for simply existing as who they are. And there are so many people who've had totally different experiences than me and felt those same feelings, and I want to hear about their lives. So that's my goal with this whole project, is for people to feel less alone and to share their own stories. So I'll just leave you with that and say Black Lives Matter. Thank you for tuning in. Bye.
I've gotten good enough at bass that I don't have to look down at my hands anymore. I've been practicing almost a year now. A Smashing Pumpkins song is playing from the stereo sitting on the windowsill in front of me, and I'm playing along. I love this album, even though I was only 2 when it came out in 1991. I look out into the backyard as the rhythm of the song creates this gravity that's sucking me in. The way the drummer plays pulls my insides, and I feel like my whole body's getting rocked to the beat. I can kind of see my reflection in the window. I have this boy short haircut that sticks out all over the place, and I'm wearing my rainbow tie-dye pajama pants and a periodic Table of the Elements shirt. Pretty dorky, I know, but I don't really care what I look like right now. I feel like I am part of the music. The drums pound out the beat, and the bass line I'm playing matches up with it. I like how heavy and loud it is. It stomps all the stupid thoughts out of my head. The anger and tightness I feel in my body when I think about what the popular kids see when they look at me flies away. My muscles relax, and I let the music pull me and push me. I feel secure with the heavy bass strapped to my body. I like the feeling of the dense wooden instrument in my hands, and how it covers my body, and the strap pulling down on my shoulder. Usually I don't know what to do with my hands. They awkwardly go in and out of my pockets when I'm standing around at school, but now I feel completely locked in. I start moving more with the rhythm. I can finally jump around when I play without messing up, instead of having to sit down and look at each note. I spread one leg forward and one back and rock from foot to foot. I think about the Smashing Pumpkins bass player, Darcy Rutsky, and how I want to look that cool. She's tall and thin though, like a rocker is supposed to look. And I have this stupid curvy body. But right now, I don't really care. I'm starting to feel cool. I start hopping as I yell along to the lyrics. I feel part of something, connected. Connected to the other people playing the song, and to something even bigger. It's not a normal feeling for me, but right now, I feel the layers of the song and my role in it. The world outside of music scares me. It seems so disorganized, and I don't have any idea where I'm supposed to fit in. Not that I even want to. I want to stop existing out there and just live in this song where everything makes sense. I feel in control of myself, and I start to feel like a rock star. I am in the I kick my right leg high in the air and swing the neck of the bass up. God, it feels so good to thrash around. At school, I feel so clenched and tight, but here I can let it all out. I do a headbang, and as I'm coming up, I see a man looking at me through the window. Crap! I dive below the windowsill, and on the way down, register that he had a jumpsuit on. It's the oil man coming to fill the tank. Sitting under the window, I reach above my head and turn the volume down on the stereo. No one was supposed to see that.
Dear young rocker, I'm so happy you're discovering music. It's going to take you places you can't even imagine just yet. And more importantly, it's going to transform the pain you feel but don't know how to express to anyone around you. By the way, I'm the older you, the 31-year-old you, believe it or not. Weird, I know. This podcast is your story, a memoir of anger, isolation, anxiety, body issues, and other crap of adolescence, and how playing rock music transformed the pain of growing up a loner. It's not a sad story, though. It's about survival and ultimately learning to flourish in your own weird way. It's also about a topic I've never heard discussed much, that it's not just boys who deal with anger and aggression issues, even though when they act aggressively, it's seen as a normal, healthy part of growing up and are way more likely to be pushed toward an outlet for those feelings, like, hey son, bang on the drums, or try out for football or wrestling. While those of us elsewhere on the gender spectrum get labeled as problematic or crazy if we dare let our anger out. So we often end up pushing it inside. All of that unplaced aggression goes into ourselves until we internally combust. Because we're told it's normal for boys to want to hit others, but not for the rest of us, right? Wrong. I dedicate this story to anyone who's ever felt out of place or wrong or weird for something they can't change about themselves and found a home in music. Dear Young Rocker was born from an idea that many of us share, that I wish I could go back and tell my younger. I want to talk to not only the kid me, but every kid out there who wants to be invisible, who feels strange in their growing body, who might imagine everyone hates them or that they hate everyone else, and feels like no one on earth would ever get it. I want to tell them that they actually aren't alone. I want to tell them that the pressures put on them as a girl or a boy, or whatever gender identity or sexual orientation or race or class or culture, those pressures aren't always right or fair, no matter what our parents say. And though this is my specific story, I hope it might help anyone who struggled or is struggling with those pressures. Music, specifically rock music, is what got me through it all. And my dear young rocker, it's time for you to tell that story. So, I have this thing where I want to be famous, but I don't want anyone to actually see me. Maybe I can tell you a story from when I was little to explain. One time, my mom brought me along with her when she was shopping. While she was in the changing stall, I played in the hallway with the big mirrors while the women were coming in and out. There was this leather ottoman to sit on for people who were waiting, and I climbed up on it and jumped off over and over again. I pretended it was a tall building and I was flying down. I wanted to fly so badly back then. I thought about it constantly. So while I was doing this, I said, "I'm the flying girl. I'm so amazing, but no one even wants my autograph." And I sighed really loudly. I don't know how to explain it, but I wanted all the women to see me, but I didn't at the same time. I pouted and sat down on the ottoman. Then a woman came out of a stall and said, "It's the flying girl. Can I have your autograph?" I turned bright red and my heart started racing. I dove to the and crawled into my mom's changing room. I felt so angry at the woman, but I didn't know why. My face burned, and I felt this thing like hot steam rising up in my chest and pushing its way out of me through my head and my limbs. It felt like I could hurt someone without trying. It was the same feeling I had when Mikhail said that dumb thing about me in algebra class. Okay, so I have to explain my body to you first so you get it. It's like as soon as I got my period, I went from a kid to a middle-aged woman with these womanly hips. By 6th grade, I was curvy, but not in the good symmetrical way. I wear an extra small shirt, but my butt only fits extra large. And I hate it. It's like I'm two different people glued together in the middle. Sometimes when I'm getting dressed, I stand in front of the mirror and hold a big towel horizontally. I call this my magic trick. I slowly move the towel down until it divides me in half. And you can only see the skinny top part of me. And I imagine what someone who'd never seen all of me would think I look like if they just saw me like this. And I wonder how amazing it would feel to be that thin. Then I lift the towel up so it's covering my top half, and all you can see is my eyes and my huge hips down through my big blubbery knees and thick ankles. And it looks like I must have a fat stomach and wide shoulders and big boobs behind there. At least that way I would be symmetrical and not a freak. And I know the hot girls are skinny, all skinny, not just half skinny. They don't have any sort of butts at all. I know this from overhearing the popular boys talk on the bus about which girls they want to hook up with. Not surprisingly, it's the super stick thin ones. And one kid even said, "It doesn't matter what the girl's face looks like." It's not that I want to be hot or impress those guys even. I just don't want my body to stand out so bad. Down the street and I get attention because of my hips.
Hey baby! Hey baby!
Those popular girls look like boys, my mom says. But the low-rise hip huggers at the store in the junior section are for girls like that. Skin tight, super duper duper hip huggers. That is what's popular, and I can't even get them on my body. My mom buys me ugly jeans in the misses section because she says they fit my shape. But they come up above my belly button, which looks like 90s, aka lame. No one wants to look like the 90s. Everyone wants to look like Britney with their pants so low they probably have to shave down there just to wear them. I usually just wear those big, wide boys' Jinko jeans to totally hide my hips. I feel more comfortable because I know no one is looking at my body or me, and I think those pants are cool anyway. I look like a raver, whatever that means. Plus, I kind of just like looking like a boy too. When I think about it, I really hate being a girl. The problem with being female is your body is always being looked at and you get judged on it, while boys get judged on how smart or tough or cool they are. And those are all the things I want to be. I don't give a crap about trying to be pretty or cute or hot. Being hot is stupid. No one cares what you say or you think, and you're just born pretty or not. You don't earn it by doing anything interesting. But one stinking time, I bought a pair of hip huggers and I wore them to school. Of course, in algebra class, the funny kid Mikhail called out for everyone to hear,
"Hey Chelsea, I think you need some duct tape for that crack."
Everyone laughed, including my best friend. I turned red and I tried hard to stop existing. That night and for weeks and weeks afterwards, I thought about Mikhail's stupid comment and the steam rose up in me again. I thought about wrapping his ugly head in duct tape and smashing it against the desk. In my bed, I curled up in a ball and I ground my teeth together and I clenched my fists. This feeling was so intense, I felt nauseous. I didn't like having these thoughts. They made me feel disgusted. But because they'd think I was nuts. It was really hard work keeping these feelings inside, but I knew I had to try as hard as I could so I wouldn't hurt myself worse than I already had or do something to someone else. But wherever the anger comes from, when I'm playing bass, my feelings combine with the loud music. They're absorbed in the noise. And for a few minutes, they all go away. I'm sitting in Miss Piccioni's English class and it's hot. Thank God we're getting a new high school because this air conditioning situation, as in no air conditioning, sucks. She's talking about Shakespeare, but no one's listening.
What do we know about iambic pentameter? Anybody? Nothing? Okay.
She's a lot younger than our other teachers, so no one respects her. I kind of feel bad for her, but it's the end of the year, so I get it. I can't concentrate either. The crappy old windows barely even open in here, and it sounds like the heater might still be on. It's clanging like someone's trying to escape from inside. She turns around to write something on the board, and everyone starts talking. I'm not talking to anyone though, because even though I've survived nearly a whole year of high school with a terrible too short haircut that thank God is growing out finally, I'm still a no one. If I vaporized in my seat right now, I don't think anyone would notice. I'm still only a secret bass player. The only shows I've played are in my basement for my cat in my pajamas, jumping around like a dork to the Smashing Pumpkins. I'm listening to one girl talk about the 2 guys she's dating.
Yeah, they're both like really hot.
Then some kids on my right start talking about their band. In orchestra in middle school is one of them. So that's what he's been up to. Maybe he's less nerdy now than when we did that Metallica cover together for the 8th grade talent show, and he got us disqualified for making fun of the girl who sang a song for her mom. He's talking to another kid who looks like Kurt Cobain Jr.
We really need a new bass player.
You can't just be anyone. We gotta have tryouts.
This is my chance. It's here. Time slows down. I have to talk out loud to other people. I have to seize this opportunity or it will never come again. If I don't get in this band, I might as well give up on life. Being in a band is the only way I'm ever going to be able to talk to another person or maybe even make any friends. I can't freeze up or be invisible or dive to the ground and crawl under my desk. I look at the clock. There's less than a minute before the bell rings. Okay. I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. I start thinking about how much I'm going to hate myself later for not saying anything and how much I'm going to cry about it. But just as my throat starts to get tight and my face gets hot, I hear my own voice come out of my mouth. Can I try out? Crap. My status as invisible must make my voice inaudible to other people. No one heard that. Can I try out?
Oh, I forgot you play bass.
Oh, do you have an amp?
Fred is taller and just as skinny as Ricky and has greasy white blonde hair and all his clothes are too big. Yep, I do. Ricky rips off a piece of yellow notebook paper and scribbles down his phone number plus Fred's and Nick's and hands it to me. Band practice Saturday or Sunday. Call Nick to find out. Wish him a happy birthday. On the walk home, I read that paper about 100 times. I feel bouncy and shaky, and I have to work on walking normally. I think the only scarier thing than talking to someone is calling someone on the phone. I hope I do it. I have to. My life depends on it. If were a movie, this next part would be the happy musical montage. A heavy but happy guitar riff, probably the Smashing Pumpkins today, would start playing over a scene of me walking to school. And as I entered the building, the lyrics would come in. Today is the greatest day I've ever known. Can't wait for tomorrow. I might not have it long. As I strut down the halls with a smile on my face, 2 or 3 guys would come from the wings and start walking next to me. All of us wearing band t-shirts and jeans. We would approach doorways, and I would step confidently past, never gasping or jumping from stupid anxiety. I look everyone in the eye and smile when I pass them. Next is a cut to us walking in slow motion over to a lunch table and taking up the whole thing. We throw our heads back while laughing as we play air guitars. As the montage ends, my voiceover comes in. I was finally a band guy, and it felt just right. I don't like calling anyone, even the pizza man. I usually make my mom do that. But if I want to be in a band, which I do more than anything in the world, obviously, I have to make this call. I dial, and it rings, and Nick's mom picks up, and I ask for Nick. I don't know if I've seen him before, so I don't know who to imagine on the phone, but his voice is intimidating. It's really deep. He sounds really cool, like he could care less. So I try to sound that way too.
Hello?
What day is practice on?
Saturday?
At the end? PB day.
What?
Ricky said to have a happy birthday.
Thanks.
The next day at school, in the hall, Ricky started walking toward me really fast with a big stack of papers. It was tabs for all the songs the band plays. He said most of them were Nirvana or Pixies. Some of them were their own original songs, but I didn't know which ones were which because they only had song titles on them, and I don't have any Nirvana or Pixie CDs yet. He told me which songs I should learn for the tryout. I looked at them in my next class, and I was super relieved. They were all really easy looking. I was nervous though because I didn't have any of the songs to listen to for reference, so I just played the numbers on the page through a few times. You can't tell the song parts or how fast things are just by looking at tabs, so I'd have to figure it out at practice, and I hoped I would keep up. My mom dropped me off at Nick's, and he answered the door. He was a lot less intimidating in person. He's the same height as me, like 5'5", and kinda chubby with red hair and a sorta shaggy 80s looking haircut, and his pants were way too long. He had a goofy smile, and his voice was way higher than it was on the phone. I followed him downstairs into the back guest bedroom, which was the band practice room. The basement had a strong wet dog smell. It kind of grossed me out. There was a twin bed against the wall and a drum kit shoved in the corner. I didn't know how I was gonna fit in there. I put my tiny amp down and I stood with my butt up against the bed. A boxer dog came running in and jumped up on everybody. I didn't like it. Nick yelled, "Jumper!" at the dog, and Nick's mom came in and took her away. Fred was the band leader, and he said we should play a song called Hercules. I didn't know if they wrote it or if it was Nirvana or something, but I didn't ask because I didn't want to look like a lame. I didn't ask. But I didn't ask because I didn't want to look lame. I looked at the tabs. It was just like 3 notes, but it felt really shaky. Not all the way. Nick counted off, and the guitars came in. I waited for them to play the first part for a couple seconds so I would know how to do it. Then I came in. It was easy. After a while, Nick did a big fill, and I could tell they were gonna switch to the next part of the song. And I totally nailed the change. We did a few others, and I pretty much got them all down. As we kept playing, I realized how amazing this was. I can barely handle talking to one person at a time, but I was communicating with 3 people all at once, and I wasn't awkward at all. This must be what it's like when popular kids talk to their friends, I thought. Then I remembered, this wasn't my first band with Ricky. In 8th grade, we had teamed up with another cello player, one of the embarrassing dorky girls from my former middle school lunch table, and the 3 of us formed a cello Metallica cover band for the talent show. It was called Metallica. At the end of practice, Ricky said he would make me some CDs of the songs we were working on. Then they started making fun of their old bass player, Becky. They said she played like a robot. Ricky did an impression. He awkwardly plucked the strings way too hard at the wrong time. I laughed. I had no idea any other girls played bass, but obviously I was better anyway. I asked if they were trying out other people. They said I was good. I was in a band. I was in Samsara. My mom drives me out to Sterling. Holden, where we live, is pretty quiet, but Sterling is even quieter. It's one of the towns that's part of our high school. You can't drive over 20 miles an hour through the center of this town without getting pulled over. And the center of town is just like a bank and a pizza place and a church. I start feeling twitchy in my seat as we pull up to the church. When we walk in, I see there's like 30 kids already in there. And the stage is pretty big. It's a good and I find my band pretty easily because Fred is taller than most of the kids in there, and I see his blonde mop bouncing around. I point at Nick's head, because he has a buzz cut instead of the floppy mop he had before. He says his mom made him do it. He's wearing a Clash shirt, and Ricky's wearing a Jimi Hendrix shirt, and Fred has an old t-shirt that says, "I'm a friend of Holden Hospital." My parents worked there before it closed in the 80s. I like old crummy t-shirts like that, so I say, "Hey, cool shirt." And now that I'm in a band and know I'll be with a group of friends at all times, I finally felt confident enough to wear the kind of outfit I daydream about but never actually wear to school. I'm kind of copying Gwen Stefani. I think she's cool because she's actually a good musician and isn't just trying to be sexy. I love No Doubt. I've known all the words to Tragic Kingdom since I was like 12. So I cut off a pair of my super wide leg jeans below the knee to make the sort of blousey pants she wears, like pirate pants. On top, I have a tiny red tank top, and I wore my red belt that says "Caution" in black letters to match. I topped it off with my big black Doc Marten boots, red lipstick, and a clip-on long blonde ponytail since my hair is still too short to put up. I don't look invisible at all. I think I'm ready. Well, until I start climbing the stairs to the stage. It hits me that I'm being looked at by a lot of people. I worry that I look like I'm clumping across the stage to my amp. My legs feel super heavy like they do when I'm anxious. I kind of wish I'd worn something less attention-getting,
feel like I look dumb now. I've plugged in my bass to my amp a million billion times, but suddenly it seems hard to do, like I don't know how, and I'll do it wrong. I don't want to look like some dumb girl. Why is this happening? This is not what I imagined getting hung up on. God, don't look like a girl, I think. I look at Ricky and Fred, and they're giggling about plugging in a pedal wrong or something. I look at Nick, and he looks annoyed. We make eye contact, and he rolls his eyes and says, "Get on with it!" I can't wait for them to start. It finally happens. I try to think about how any of the songs go, but I can't, and I worry that I won't be able to play anything. But 2 measures later, my hands just start playing the song. If I think about the notes, it gets harder to play, but if I just listen to the music, it kind of magically happens. It doesn't make any sense. People start nodding their heads, and our friend Biff starts doing crazy headbanging. I'm making people move. Me. I'm doing this. The person who cannot talk to anyone or look anyone in the eye is making a dozen people nod their heads. I let myself be absorbed by the swell of noise. After the first few songs, I realize it's my turn to sing. Again, I worry it's just not gonna happen. I have to just trust that it will, but it's almost impossible. This is the hardest one because it starts with me just playing and singing. It's a Pixies cover. I want to tell them, we can't do this one, I forgot it, I can't. But I can't even get that out of my mouth. Soon enough, my hands are playing the opening bass line. I look down at them in amazement. I don't think I could even decide to play faster or slower. Something else is definitely making me play. The moment before I start singing, time collapses, and I want to yell, "No way, I can't do it, nope." This had been a really hard one to learn. Playing bass and singing at the same time isn't easy to begin with, but this song is weird. The singing rhythm and the bass rhythm don't line up. You can't think about both at once when you practice. You have to just think about the singing or just about the bass playing and hope your body makes the other one happen at the right time. I sat on my floor in my room for hours after school every day, and for a while I didn't think it would ever happen. I wasn't gonna give up though. I needed it to happen. I couldn't be a Becky. And then one day, I kind of stopped thinking so hard about it, and it just happened. But what had happened on not to think about it. Don't try to count or say the notes in your head, Chelsea. It won't work. I'm so nervous about the people looking at me that I probably couldn't even think about it if I wanted to anyway. And then it happens. My voice comes out of me and it sings at the right time. I watch from inside myself and imagine the bass line and the singing line as 2 circles moving at the same time, but different speeds and lining up every so often. I feel the cycles moving through me without my effort. Then I look out at the audience. I usually feel so separate from the people around me. But right now, we're all in this song together. It's like I can feel all our brain waves vibrating at the same frequency. Who am I? Am I anyone? Am I them? Am I the music? All I know is I'm not at all invisible. Somehow I'm totally okay with that. When it ends, everyone claps. And all I want is to feel that again.
Hi, folks. Yeah, for sure. Totally amazing. Chelsea, that was incredible. Welcome back to being audible. Hi.
Thank you. Hi. I just realized I left a file off of that video, and it's supposed to end with me addressing my younger self and saying it's not nice to make fun of Becky and other supportive things. But oh
Would you
well.
like to say them now? Do you want to say those things now?
Yeah, I'll if that's cool, I'll just read the letter I was supposed to read to my younger self.
Awesome.
This is the first video that's more than 1 minute that I've ever edited, so or recorded.
You did a great job.
Thank you very much. Okay. Dear Young Rocker, wow, I am so proud of you. Whenever you need to be brave again in the future, please remember the time you asked to try out for a band, even though you thought you were incapable of talking to other kids at school. And the time you played your first show and even sang and played at the same time in front of a real audience. Another thing you just thought you couldn't do, and something plenty of people who've been playing bass for years can't do either. I know you're probably going to immediately start thinking about how you could do it better, the mistakes you made, or what you should have worn instead. But please take as much time as you possibly can to just feel that happiness and pride in yourself. It's so easy when we look back at where we've been to only see the negative things and to add them up and convince ourselves it's all been bad. Maybe there are less moments of glory like this than normal, boring, frustrating, depressing ones. But I truly think those shining moments, no matter how few and far in between they are, those carry about 1,000,000 times more weight than the crappy ones do. And yet we forget them so easily. Regardless, I'm just so happy that you got to experience the feeling of being yourself in front of people and feeling connected to a band and an audience. It's pretty friggin' amazing, isn't it? When I look back at the pictures of you from that show, I always feel struck by the look on your face. I can tell you're working really hard to not smile like a huge dork. It's such a change from your school picture day photos and candid ones of you at Girl Scouts or field trips, where I can tell you're doing that thing where you're shrinking your energy inside yourself to be invisible and don't even want to exist. An older teenage you will be embarrassed by your outfit, but super old you, aka me, thinks you look like the coolest kid in school. The early 2000s were a weird time for fashion, but you somehow look bomb thanks in part to Gwen Stefani. And cropped wide leg pants. Oh, could you hear all of that? Okay. I just touched the button on the microphone and it wasn't all the way up. Okay, it was on.
Yeah,
good.
no, totally
Okay, thank you. Oh yeah. So yeah, your outfit was cool. And I know you probably still didn't think you felt confident or looked confident at the time, but no one could tell looking at you. I promise. You have a right to just feel straight up good because you're you. And so does everyone else. Maybe to you it feels conceited and jerky to think you're cool, but actually it's just thinking you're cool compared to other people that is the conceited and jerky thing to do. Feeling good for other people and helping them feel good about themselves will do more for your own confidence than anything else. Plus, it will make the world a better place. It's going to take you many, many more years to figure that out, but I hope people your age can get there on their own a little faster than you, because where you're at now isn't fun. Anyway, you do feel a little bit good about yourself for once, and compared to how you felt before, you more than deserve this. I know it feels like your social problems have up and disappeared, but that's just because you haven't started making out yet. And by God, I wish you never did. But that's for next time. Let's leave on a happy note. Enjoy yourself for a minute. You have a lot to feel proud of. And I know it still feels like you're just throwing stuff out there and going in whatever direction, but you are on the path you're meant to be on, and you're doing the one thing that should always guide you, following your intuition. I promise you can't mess it up too bad, no matter what different directions and diversions your path takes, as long as you follow the feeling that makes you feel like you. You've got it, kid. Love you, Chelsea. Okay, now I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you for reading that. It was great. That was really cool.
Thank you.
I first of all, I mean, I have a lot of things that I thought of while I was listening to you, because of course I think that there's no way that we can't feel some connection to what you're talking about. Everybody has been in a place where they maybe where they feel like they're embarrassed, like they don't want to be the center of attention, like they want to disappear. And I think that the way that you describe that and describe overcoming it, or almost like you just find yourself doing things even though maybe you don't think you can. I found that really poignant, and I really felt very connected to it. The thing that I'm so impressed by is that you kept these memories. And I wonder about your process. Can I ask you about process?
Sure, let's do it.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Like you found these pieces of information, right? You have these notes that you've kept, and
Yeah.
What happened? What happened? Did you open a diary and just think?
No, I didn't. So I didn't keep any diaries. I was never an everyday writer, but I wrote pretty frequently. And whenever it would be like 3 years later, I would find it and I would read it and be so embarrassed. I'd be like, I can't believe I had a crush on that person. And I was so whiny and stupid. And I was just so embarrassed, like thinking that what if my mom reads this or whoever, that I would just rip out the pages and burn them and throw them away, because I just hated my younger self so much. And that's one big part of this project, is like loving my younger self, because it's a hard thing to do. But so I didn't have a ton to go on. I did have those little moments. Like I had that piece of paper and I think it was just stuck in a book. It wasn't like I had purposely, curated a collection of band stuff. But writing about this stuff, I am not a person with a good memory. People think I am because I have these vivid scenes that I write, but they took so long to write. I would have one piece of information, like I knew I played a first show. I knew where it was. I think I could remember the other bands that played a little bit, but I wasn't sure. Couldn't totally remember what songs we played, whatever. And so I would write like Okay, here I am. My Zoom just froze and quit, and I am back.
This is really this technology thing. I don't know.
Like, they haven't made something better yet. We've been doing this for 3 months now. Come on,
Right? Right?
I feel like in the 90s they were like, oh, by the year 2000 we'll have basic virtual reality where we can visit our friends, and it's like just crappy video chats still.
Yep. It looks like we might have lost her again. Uh-oh, Chelsea, come back to us. We have so many wonderful things we want to ask. I think what's going on here is that we're working on getting her back on. Is that what's going on here? Yes.
I'm so scared to start talking again. Oh my God.
Keep talking. Just keep talking.
Yes. So it took a very long time to write. I would start with one small piece of information, and then even though it's a memoir, a nonfiction book that I wrote, it was like writing a fiction book. I had to do research. It was like writing historical fiction. I had to Google like what happened in the year 2004. And then I'd be like, oh yeah, George Bush. And even though that had nothing to do with my personal life, I would remember, oh, I had that fight with my friend about George Bush right after we went to that Green Day show. Oh my God. And she had this crush on this guy. And so I'd write like a scene that just said like, I played a show. And then I'd be taking a shower a week later and remember one detail and add it to the scene. And then I'd be driving my car another week later and add another detail to the scene. And then I would talk to my friend from 8th grade who I hadn't talked to in 5 years, and she would remind me of something. And I would piece it together and then edit it to make it smooth. And so now it sounds like I am just taking myself back in time. But if you had asked me, and now I have this record to remember, I have these like this thing I've made, I can use it as my memory and it will stay. But it was a whole lot of work putting this together. So
I'm really impressed because I was feeling so insecure about how good your memory was. Like, wow, how does she remember that? Like, that's so amazing, these details. And I'm feeling like maybe a little less insecure now.
Yeah, and there's tricks you can do. So I went to writing school. I got an MFA in creative nonfiction, and they teach you little things like if you can't remember exactly what you said, then in the writing you say, and I probably said something like blah 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 blah. You use those little hedges, and the reader doesn't even notice it, but just in case you remembered it wrong, you have that like insurance. So I do a lot of stuff like that.
That's really cool. I really liked when you were talking about the very first story that you told about being the flying girl. And when you started to talk about living in this place where you wanted to be famous, but you didn't want to be seen.
Right.
And I thought that was such an excellent insight to that age.
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of feeling that you don't want to be seen. But it sounded very similar to me when you were talking about this thing that came out of your mouth, right? Accidentally, as you're jumping off the ottoman. And the experience of being on stage and your hands taking over.
Mm-hmm.
And it coming out of you, even though maybe you didn't want to be seen. And I was curious about now, when you get on stage now.
Yeah.
Do you have that experience still? That like, I want to be famous, but I don't want to be seen?
I struggle with it every time I play. Still, there's always a moment where I'm like, occasionally I'm just having a great day. I don't know, serotonin is just doing its job. But a lot of the time I will be 30 seconds into my first song, and if people aren't nodding their heads or something, or I just get it in my mind that everyone absolutely hates it. And I imagine what every person's thinking of me. I look at one person and I'm like, oh, that person looks really hip. They probably think my songs are really washed up and lame. Oh, that person, whatever. And sometimes I just absolutely have the urge to just get off the stage, give up music forever, and never let anyone look at my face ever again. And I've started crying while playing because I feel like my music is so bad and I'm whatever. But then I remind myself, no, you just have problems with imagine. I just have a vivid imagination. I'm imagining these really strange ideas into these people who are watching me, who are probably just thinking about like who they're talking to on Tinder or something. So one thing I try to impart to my younger self is this: it never goes away, but you learn the tricks. And the trick is always with music, just thinking about the song, because I was in a good place when I wrote the song, or at least I was loving, the rhythm or the chord changes or the words or whatever. And so I just think about that. And then I get back into it. And then I think about my bandmates and rocking out with them. And I look at their silly faces and then I'm back into it. So I still have that. The most recent song I wrote, I think the lyrics are, I don't want to be seen, stop looking at me. And it's not that I don't want to be seen. I just don't want to think about being seen, I guess. So yeah, still very much there, but it's easier. Yeah.
Do you now in 2020 own any jeans that button over your belly button?
Yes, all of them. Now it's lame. Well, actually, it's kind of, maybe the low rise is coming back at this point. But it's so funny that I was like, oh God, it was just like frumpy hand me down, but not in a cool way to have high waisted jeans in the early 2000s. It was like, ooh.
Totally.
But now it's.
I was laughing as you said it because I feel
cool.
like it is now for years and years and years, right? It was mom jeans. It was like, oh, mom jeans. Yeah. And now I see all the young people are wearing the high-waisted jeans now. And it's funny to see it now as like such a trendy thing. And when you were talking about it, I was like, but that's so done now. People are doing it now. They wear those jeans.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny. It's just so funny. I just was curious if you owned any now in this age of high-waisted trousering. I was told as a youngster in the age that you're talking about that I couldn't play drums because I'm a girl. I was also told that I could play acoustic guitar, but I couldn't play electric guitar because I'm a girl.
Yeah.
And then later in my 20s, I was told that I couldn't run sound because I'm a girl. And I thought what you were talking about that boys are not discouraged from being angry and being loud. And I'm wondering, despite all that, where did the bass and the amp come from?
Yeah.
Who gave you the bass and the amp?
My very first one, I'm trying to think. I think it was my mom. My mom had wanted to play the drums when she was in high school, but that wasn't a thing she could do. And so when I said I wanted to play rock music, she was like, heck yeah, I'm buying you whatever you want. She bought me a bass and a little tiny practice amp. So yeah.
Good mom.
Yep.
We all should have played drums.
Mm-hmm.
All of us ladies.
Oh yeah, I wish
I never played the drums until I went to Ladies Rock Camp 9 years ago. It was the first time I ever picked up drumsticks, and I love playing the drums. I love it.
That's the best. Yeah.
Never did it before that because I was told I couldn't. Straight up. Too bad you can't play drums because you're a girl.
Right.
Because that's what happens. So I'm going to, I wanted to talk about something serious, but before we talk about something serious, I just want to know who came up with the name Michelica, because that's genius.
Yeah, thank you. My greatest band ever. I don't know if it was me or my fellow Metallica mates, maybe there was the cello cover band Apocalyptica, who we were basically copying. So we
But
probably
Metallica has a much better name.
Thank you.
Much better. Do you have recordings of Metallica? Was that an actual recording?
No, like all the music in this, I recreated it myself. So
pretty amazing stuff. I think Metallica has great potential. We'd love to have Metallica on the virtual venue.
Yeah, I got to find some bandmates.
I see Erin approves. Okay, so I'm gonna dive into something that I can't help but think about as you're talking about all this, and that is the experience that you had because you could be with people. And you could be in a room with people, and you could play music with those people, and you could get on a stage and play in front of an audience. And at a time when that's not happening, and as you can imagine, I'm feeling this pretty poignantly as a venue owner, and you're feeling it pretty poignantly. I know all the musicians here are feeling this a lot. It was really, it stood out to me that this experience that you had because of the ability to be around people. And what do you think? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about like how are kids who need to find this in their lives? What is this going to do to them? This sort of isolating situation. Are they going to find other ways to connect? I mean, this is not going to be forever.
Yeah, I hope not.
But we're talking about an impressionable age.
Yeah. Well, I wish I knew. I feel like there's some levels of connection on social media. I actually joined TikTok recently and very skeptically, and then I've actually enjoyed it because I found a lot of people who actually make pretty meaningful stuff on there, and there's a lot of actually like therapists and different sort of life coach kind of people, and I found these like really motivational, interesting people who make like creative content on there, which is cool. And it's just neat how young people, like, they'll make an original song and then someone will like use it in their video, and then the next thing you know, they have like thousands and thousands of shares. And so, they're not in the room together, but they're kind of in this virtual room together. And that's something. And I've seen really nice stories. Young people take a TikTok where they're like, I had no friends. I couldn't talk to anyone. I found this community and you've all supported me. And I think that's really cool. I personally, my social anxiety kind of extends to social media, and I get overstimulated by it very easily. So I'm not sure. Or maybe they'll invent something new that really works for me. That's a little more chill. But yeah, I don't know. There's nothing like playing music in a room with other people, personally, I've felt that lack because I will be that hermit person that doesn't go out, but always it's like, oh, my band's playing a show, I'm forced to go out, and then I'm forced to see my friends and talk to them. And so without that, I'm still figuring out what to do. I mean, this experience is great. I see some people I know, and it's nice to see their little grainy, distorted faces. But I wish I could feel their energy. I don't know. What do you think about that, JJ? I know you're interviewing me, but
no, I think I mean, I have a lot of very complicated feelings about all of it, not just my perspective of it, but having been in bands, having been on tour, having booked shows. I believe that things will be restored. I worry a lot about the damage that's going to be done. I think that I've been super, super impressed with how creative people got very quickly. I was really impressed with, bands, musicians, creative people are just so resourceful, so
Yeah.
very, very quickly resourceful, and people really, I mean, very, very fast figured out the technology. Obviously, Zoom is not a great solution. It's, glitchy and hang-uppy and all this stuff. But if you think about, um, I mean, 20 years ago, if we were isolated, we would have been really,
Yeah.
much more isolated than we are now. Um, so I'm grateful to the creativity that I'm seeing every day, and
Yeah.
I'm proud of my friends and compatriots for holding it down. But I do feel I'd be lying if I didn't say I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Um,
Me
I'm worried
too.
about people. I'm worried that isolation is bad for people. And
Yeah.
talking to each other with masks on, not being in the same place, I don't think it's good for people. I don't think it's
No.
healthy. I'm worried about the mental health of the nation.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know.
and it's just so touching when you talk about how important that is to you. Standing on that stage and suddenly finding your hands and your voice. And I think about, well, what about another 15-year-old who needs to find her hands and her voice, and what how are they going to do that? How are they going to find that? And I think they will. I mean, somebody was living out on the prairie 200 years ago and found their voice, right?
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean that kid could, start a YouTube channel and get a lot of comments that could support them, and that goes somewhere. Unfortunately, they usually also come with a bunch of horrible trolls, which is sad.
Yeah,
Uh, but you still don't just get that energy that you get playing a live show.
right.
That's the missing piece.
That is
Yeah,
the missing piece. And
but
you got to wonder, like, is there going to be a generation of creativity that doesn't, this is what I keep thinking about, is like, well, what about people who don't know what they're missing, right?
yeah,
Like kids
right.
who in the next, I mean, I'm going to be, this is not happy thoughts here, right? The live music experience, it's going to be on pause for a while.
I know.
And that's brutal for us, that for all of us. I mean, this is not something that we want to accept, but the reality is, we're not going to be able to have a lot of people in a room together for a little while. Erin says, I'm going nuts. Erin, I'm with you. I'm with you. Going nutty. Absolutely nutty. But I wonder, like, well, what about that 15-year-old that would have gone to their first show next week?
Yeah. Oh, I know. All the
What if,
kids who just graduated and are in between and need somewhere to feel like they belong. And
yeah.
I'm thinking about them, and maybe they'll listen to my podcast and feel like someone gets them, but I don't know.
Well, I think that, it makes your podcast even more important, right? That you're
Yeah.
talking about stuff and about these feelings that are complicated, and then you add the fear and the isolation, and teenagers already feel a lot of isolation and fear.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely. I mean, I know the stuff you talk about really rings with me, and I'm sure with, I mean, I know I was, as you were doing your piece there, I was watching other people nodding and going, yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I was doing it. Yep. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That fear. And it's so important what you're doing to speak to a younger person like that. I love it. I think it's really great. So
Thank you.
when is season 2?
Season 2 starts on August 19th, and that'll be episode 1 and 2 dropping on the same day. So,
Okay.
working hard on it right now.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
Feeling good about it?
Yeah, I am. I'm much more prepared. The first time around was flying by the seat of my pants. This time they like I'm working with like a person who's helping me schedule things, which is amazing because I'm not organized. So it's great to have help.
That's great. Yeah, sometimes we just have to admit that we need help with our creativity. I have a tendency to make stuff up as I go along.
Yeah.
Like, I have a big space. Maybe I'll put a PA in it and see what happens if some people get up on a stage.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens then. Or hey, let's start a virtual channel. What is that? I don't know.
Here we are.
We'll just ask our friends to come do something with us. Okay, cool. Yeah. It gets easier as it goes along, right? Now we've got some shows under our belt and we know like, okay, it starts at this time and we push this button and you get there.
Yeah, you just got to do it.
So I'm excited for season 2.
Thank you.
That's really cool. We'll tell the world.
Cool.
We'll definitely put it out and tell everybody. And if anybody wants to like unmute, and if there's anything that you want to chime in, what's the word I'm looking for? Weigh in.
Ask me whatever you want. Ask me something.
Yourselves. Can you unmute yourselves?
Can we do that?
You can raise your hand and we can unmute you.
Oh, okay.
Reaction thing down there. And if you raise your hand, hey, hi, Aaron.
I guess I would like to say thank you. This was really heartwarming for me. I'm a little bit, I'm like maybe a few years ahead of you. So I kind of remember those, like the Smashing Pumpkins record that you were talking about was like, I remember when it came out and it was so cool to hear you talk about this similar touchstone in your life that I had in mine. I was in a basement feeling some of those same feelings. It really meant a lot to hear that. And so that's basically just a note of support is what I have to offer today.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's the whole point of this is to all us weirdos to feel to feel seen in a good way. Yeah, thank you, Aaron.
Do you think a little bit that the result of being in a place where we all are the same size and the same glitchiness and like there's a little bit of a leveler going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way to think about it.
I also think that the sort of the quieter techies are really having their moment now.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of
ways. The people that understand how to set up a YouTube feed are the rock stars.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of room for virtual event people to do their thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we all sort of have an opportunity. And people who are shy and uncomfortable going out, can have maybe participate in the experience in a way that they couldn't before.
Right.
Kind of cool. Well, my friends, it's great to see you. Chelsea, your stories are beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're writing them. Thank you for writing them.
Yeah, thank you for, giving me this platform. This would probably be around the time I would do my first real podcast live show if the world weren't going through what it is. So this is a nice, I feel like I get to see the people who listen to me, because unlike playing music where you get that instant feedback of clapping, when you press publish on a podcast episode, it just disappears into the void and you see download numbers, but there's no feedback from human beings. And so this has been wonderful. And I really hope I get to do a live one at your venue someday in the future.
Sure.
And
it'll happen.
Yeah, I hope all the best for once. It's been one of my favorite places ever to play. So
we love having you there.
Yeah. So everyone support once, please. And
we'll all be okay. We'll figure it out. There will be performance. There will be music. We're all going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not retiring yet.
You rock. Thank you.
Rock, JJ.
Thank you so much, Chelsea.
Thanks everyone who tuned in.
Thanks everyone. It's been great seeing your faces. Thank you so much for
signing in and hanging out. Thank you.